Hello, I'm Josh. Well, welcome to the Josh and Tyler Show. We've officially named it the Josh and Tyler Show. The Joshcast is no more because it's boring making Joshcast videos by yourself. So we just do the Josh and Tyler Show. How many times will it come out a week?
No idea.
No idea. Will it come out 2 weeks, 1 week? Who knows? But will we have a great time doing it? And will we upload it? Yes.
Oh,
that's what we're doing.
110% on that one.
So today, we were all young once. We all had to learn things and be smarter and learn about love and how to cook and, you know, coming of age things. Well, you have to learn how to cook if you want to get married. Yeah. It really helps so you can cook when you don't want to. That's what my wife tells me. So I cook. So, today we're talking top 6 coming of age movies. My voice just went really high there. How are you today, Tyler? I can't get through an intro without laughing at myself. It's weird.
Apparently, I'm not doing as well as you, but pretty good regardless. I mean, Tiff's been treating me well. I've finally seen a movie this year that's like best movie of the year so far.
Good.
Look forward to Nomadland.
Everyone's telling me that's amazing.
It's awesome. It's really damn good.
Like, I saw the previews and stuff like that.
See, I saw nothing going into it, thankfully.
Well, then that's excellent.
Yeah.
I had a list here for this video. So coming of age movies it's very simple. If you don't know what that is, it's the most probably famous example is something like The Graduate, or basically a young man or a young woman, whether they're a kid or an adult, basically comes into maturity, learns and grows in the world, and they're better for it having learned something at the end of the movie. That's what I would define a coming of age movie.
Yeah, there's so many specific examples, like a kid going from child to preteen or adolescent to adult or college to the real world, because somehow with honors counts.
Or man-child to responsible human being, that would also be acceptable. Looking at you, Nick Frost. Every movie...
I was going to say Seth Rogen and Judd Apatow. But
yeah, exactly. Even husband to, like, not terrible husband. That would work as well.
But not gonna lie, the ones that specifically revolve around children are the best, because we've all been there in some way, shape, or form, whether we like to admit it or not.
I gotta find my list. But why don't you start with one? We've come to a lull in the video where Tyler is about to talk. Go ahead.
That's a lull? Okay, thanks.
Oh, my lull.
Well, the first one I thought of during this silent movie series that I did in 2018, when leading up to A Quiet Place, I decided to cover modern movies that told their stories, for the most part, purely for visuals without dialogue whatsoever. And one of the ones that really stood out for me was a Portuguese animated movie called Boy and the World.
Tell me about this movie that I've never heard of.
So, it's, as far as I know, a directorial debut. It's about this little kid whose father basically leaves town to go to what I'm assuming is Rio or some big-ass city in Brazil in order to find work, because jobs are really in tough times. But the kid does not understand that. He runs away to go look for his dad, but in the process he bumps into several adult figures who take him in for a short time. He gets to see what their work life is like, gets to see how incredibly difficult it is, not just due to labor concerns, but because of political corruption and this insanely obsessive switch to technology in order to mandate jobs. So the message is very clear, but it's clear enough that kids can understand without being literally talked down to. And something that I found really interesting was that not only is the dialogue backwards Portuguese the few times you actually hear people talking.
What does backwards Portuguese? Is it just like Pig Latin of English?
Probably not, because of one specific reason. All the signs, billboards, everything that has writing on it is also spelled in backwards letters. Kind of like the way kids look at signs or writing with very advanced words that are beyond their years and understanding, and they have absolutely no idea how to translate or interpret it for them. Which I think is really what elevates the discovery that this child is going through.
Okay, is it 2D animation? Like hand-drawn, or is it CG?
It's a mixture of almost exclusively 2D. There's hand-drawn, but there's also so many creative ways of using color, like felt pens, markers, and some digital stuff here and there. The drawing style is meant to basically look like a child's kindergarten picture that they draw for school and you end up showing to your parents. And this is just such a great way to capture a child's experience of what the world is like, especially when they've never seen something like this before.
That sounds pretty neat. Was this a TIFF movie when it came out at all, or?
I actually don't know. It was nominated for Best Animated Feature alongside my top favorite coming-of-age movie, as well as Inside Out, Anomalisa, and I believe Larry the Zucchini that year. It obviously lost out to Inside Out, as
then I think I know what your favorite is.
You know exactly what my favorite is.
I have a pretty good idea at this point. I have never heard of this movie. Where do I find it?
Tell you the truth, I can't actually remember where I found it. I'd like to think that because of how expensive Apple's collection is, you might find it there, but Boy and the World. Look it up. Boy and the World. As soon as you can find it, see it. It has a very similar quality to Spirit Stallion of the Cimarron, which I almost put on this list because I revisited that with my DreamWorks 2D series, and it was my absolute favorite out of those. Right up there with Prince of Egypt, because Prince of Egypt was really damn good.
I remember really enjoying Prince of Egypt growing up. I remember it was so much fun and everyone loved it, but I haven't seen it since.
But, like, Spirit's main feature going for it was that it was telling its story visually while also putting human expressions on a horse while still drawing a horse as realistically as possible. It still has, like, human eyes drawn the same way, because horses have eyes on the side of their head. There were obviously things they couldn't capture, and even the human characters really don't talk that much. They talk, and the character who speaks the most is James Cromwell as the villain, this Colonel Custer.
Colonel Mustard.
Shut up.
Did Colonel Mustard kill a horse with a candlestick in the library?
No, but he did try to beat the horse in the stable with his whip. He failed.
Good comeback. The Boy and the World.
The Boy and the World. It's a Brazilian film, a Brazilian animated movie, but it's really damn good. Check it out.
All right, let me fire one at you. This is probably going to be the lowest on my list. I love this movie, but there's just so many other ones I want to talk about. Dead Poets Society.
Ooh.
I love Dead Poets Society, and not just because it's a Robin Williams vehicle. I like genuinely the story that it tells with the group of boys at this private school who are learning, growing up, creating their own opinions, whether it's on drugs, women, how to treat each other, and just how to function in life. Robin Williams, obviously, is my favorite part. He's only in the movie for like 20 minutes, though. He's not really a huge part of it. But I love this movie from beginning to end, and it tells it through literature, which is a very interesting way to do it. Because a lot of movies will say, we're based upon a book, and then they'll go directly from the book. But this movie is, here we are, learning from literature, learning how to function in life. They have their own little private cave club forest thing, which is a lot of fun. And the highlight of the movie for me is when this creative learning, this boundless, effortless, I guess he's a man-child who just wants to have a good time but be an adult? I can't tell. Who would you define Robin Williams as in this movie?
That's a really good question, because he does have the Williams mannerisms. He has all the abrupt switches from one subject to another, but that's just part of his charm. And the fact that he does such a comedic approach to telling such a dramatic lesson to these kids really goes to show how much he just has faith in these kids and knows for a fact that they're intelligent. I mean, based on the school they're going to, he knows for a fact that they can read between the lines. They're just not used to a teacher actually trying to connect with them on their level.
And as parodied as this movie is, they did it in Community. Stand on your desk. Oh, someone fell. Go see the nurse. But as parodied as this movie is, I think when it came out in '89, I've never quite seen anything like it. He's like, rip out the front page of this. And he's telling these kids to go and experience the world, and there's no right way to do it. And I appreciate that. And then the "Oh, Captain, my Captain" scene. Oh my goodness, I love that scene. It's more memorable now that we do not have Robin Williams with us, who is my personal hero, because that man was a legend. And I love this movie from beginning to end. The boys, Robin Williams, the setting, the way it takes 2 or 3 settings and keeps it very, very simple. The concept is they're learning through literature to be creative and think for themselves. That's the movie. We don't run off to 12 different settings. It's their hideout, it's the school, it's the classroom. It's simple, it's straight to the point, and it's very effective, and it's very emotional now, more than it has ever been.
Absolutely. This was always a favorite of my dad's, either that or Good Will Hunting, which also has...
Almost picked that one. I love that movie.
Which also has coming-of-age attributes from that, like, man-child to responsible human being type of thing that you were going for. And
Chief.
If it was me, I would have picked Good Will Hunting over that just because it was...
Believe me, it was hard.
Hey, it was going to be hard.
I love Good Will Hunting, but I just think there's more coming of age in Dead Poets Society as opposed to Good Will Hunting, which is more of a self-discovery in later years as opposed to actual coming of age.
Yeah, that's absolutely fair. Like, if you were going to put a Robin Williams coming of age story on this list, it would have been really difficult. The only easy thing about it was that Jack does not go on the list.
That was a crappy movie. I don't care what y'all are saying, but I don't want to watch a man age backwards. I saw that in season 4 of Mork and Mindy. Jonathan Winters is a 5-year-old. It's weird.
Who the hell defends Jack?
People, my friends, they freaking love this Coppola movie. All I know is it's stupid. He's fallen in love with his teacher. It's weird. I'd rather watch Toys, and I don't like that movie. It's weird, except for the cool robots that pop out of the wall. That's really bad and dated for the animation, and his strange sister, Joan Cusack.
Okay, so my second choice on this list is...
What do we got, Tyler?
It's a fairly more recent one. I saw this back in 2016 when it hit theaters, and I just fell in love with the way it captured high school and how you have absolutely no idea how to communicate with each other. And it also has maybe my favorite Haley Steinfeld performance in The Edge of 17.
Almost picked this one. I love this movie.
I just love how it knows how to homage...
Just like a one-winged dove sings a song and... Continue. Sorry.
Thank you.
Anyway, Edge of 17 stars Haley Steinfeld and Woody Harrelson as she navigates her way through high school. She feels betrayed by her brother. Her best friend's performance is phenomenal.
Yes.
What more can we say?
Yes. I believe that was Haley Lou Richardson. Because she was in Split, too. Yeah. Yes. Really good. I loved how it manages to homage and pastiche John Hughes without exclusively ripping it off.
Yeah.
And it also has some James L. Brooks directing and writing features because he did produce this movie. Because it has that Simpsons intro where the theater goes, shh, do-do-do-do-do-do. That little, like, Gracie outro that you see at the end of every Simpsons episode. That's at the beginning of the movie, and I'm just like, oh yeah, James L. Brooks makes movies again. I love that. But yeah, it has some of his screenwriting features in regards to love triangle romances and how to make them feel natural and not cheesy.
Oh, these are not cheesy. These are heartbreaking and real. You don't know which side to pick. When her best friend is dating her brother, you're like, I get that you're angry, but like,
it's my choice.
She has to live her own life too. And you're torn. I like that. You can't pick sides.
Yeah, and that's the thing that I really love about this movie. It acknowledges that people can be dicks to certain people and then be absolutely lovable to others. And it really makes that feel authentic. Yep. There's one scene where the brother does nothing but shout and belittle Haley Steinfeld. Yep. And once in a while, she does kind of have it coming because there's a lot of undealt grief over the death of her father because... Yep. Unfortunately, she was in the car when it got hit. Something that, shit, I'm trying to remember who plays the mom, but she was also really good in it too. And
everyone in that movie is memorable, but I don't know their names.
Especially the classmate that she does fall in love with. He was awesome. He reminded me of so many classmates that I had in high school. Especially the way that he had absolutely no idea how to start a conversation, because that's a difficulty that I still have. I am so afraid of what people are going to potentially say, even though I know for a fact that they're going to say something nice and very understanding, but there's always that possibility that lingers on you, and that's the great thing about it.
That's what this movie captures really well. How awkward high school is. If anyone tells you high school is not awkward, they didn't go there. They were homeschooled. And they're probably still awkward.
Absolutely. And there's actually a grounded but still cinematic visual style to the way it captures what Haley Steinfeld is going through. It will have these huge wide shots that make her feel like she's the only person living, and then zoom in on these close-ups where she just hits rock bottom. She's grabbing her face. She's just coming up with every way to express her pain and suffering without giving herself off to anyone else around her. And Woody Harrelson is also incredible as
he's so good.
This guy who also does not like to show off his true feelings and tends to hide behind this incredibly tough, hard-ass attitude, especially in the first scene where Steinfeld does the rational thing of going to him and explaining that she has suicidal thoughts. And because he does,
I love this scene,
accordingly believe that she's overreacting to a certain situation, and she is, but she kind of has her reasons to overreact. And then, of course, he reads off that fake note where it's just like, I only have a certain piece of quiet between myself and I during lunch, but now I've decided that it is just not enough anymore. Die fuckers. And I'm like, damn.
He also says, he's like, for the entire year you've been coming in here for recess. You need to make friends.
Yeah.
and Woody Harrelson is not in the movie heavily, but he is the highlight of the movie easily. Haley Steinfeld is phenomenal, and she even brought her caliber to something like Bumblebee, which should be terrible, but is...
Yeah.
I really like Bumblebee. I've watched that a couple times. I don't understand why Michael Bay is still making Transformers. Let the Bumblebee guy do it.
Travis Knight, the Kubo and the Two Strings dude.
Well, that's great. But Haley Steinfeld, in this, any choice she makes these days, she makes phenomenal choices in movies. She seems to have really great judgment or a great agent.
I think Keira Sedgwick was her mom. Because the two of them have a really difficult scene to sit through where the two of them are arguing with each other. And of course they say stuff that they don't mean. It just happened on the fly, and the other person who listened to it was obviously upset, obviously knows that's not what they meant, but they took it to heart. And it was still funny at the beginning too, where she's just like, I'm going to write down exactly what you're going to say next. I'm not playing this game.
It's very honest. It seems very real, and it very well could come from like whoever wrote the screenplay. I don't know off the top of my head because I don't know that things. It probably could be their real life. They just fictionalized slightly.
Yeah, her name escapes me, and I really wish I looked her name up before I did this, but she does not get enough credit. No. She does not get enough work. She is a phenomenal filmmaker, and for a debut movie, this was one hell of a
And this was 2016, right?
Yeah.
And this started the craze of your book smarts, of your Ladybirds, of your 8th grade. This is the first of all of these type of movies.
Yeah,
and I like book smart very much. And I like 8th grade. And Ladybird is my next pick, which I will talk about in a minute. But I think this is definitely the stronger of the films.
Yeah, this was my personal favorite because it has flashy comedy and flashy visual style to it, but it still feels incredibly grounded in the John Hughes, James L. Brooks way that used to be much more common because it used to be a hell of a lot more well-made. But yeah, Edge of 17.
Yeah, well, the one thing we can say about John Hughes movies is they're awkward sometimes. Little inappropriate sometimes, but magical sometimes when you get irons to the faces. So my next pick is Lady Bird, and I think this one definitely not as good as Edge of 17. I figured you would pick it. That's why I didn't put it on my list, because otherwise it would totally be there. And I did just want to talk about the same movie forever and ever.
That's fine.
Because I love Edge of 17. I'm pretty sure I own it on Blu-ray over there, my massive movie shelf. Which is, I like my movie shelf, by the way. Lady Bird, which you haven't seen, and I know you're not a huge fan of. But I think it does one thing well. And again, what Edge of 17 did is it captures the awkwardness of high school, the ups and downs of friendships, and how social life can be affected, and relationships. And I think it does it in such a subtle, quiet way, and that's why I'm a big fan of this. The opening scene is her best friend. I can't remember who plays her best friend in this movie. She's hilarious.
Okay, you got. I thought the opening sequence was Saoirse Ronan and
Whatever her name is, she's
Jackie
coming
from Roseanne just lying down together. Wasn't that?
she's walking out to the car. Oh. And the music's playing, and they're dancing awkwardly, and they're doing their Jojo Rabbit style dance, and the music just straight cuts out. But they don't care, because they're friends, and they're having the best time ever. They don't have any opinion of who they should be or what they should be. They carpool together, they make mixtapes, cassettes, and give them to each other. It's magical. It's delightful. I love it. And it goes through the whole range of high school and about how they're going to go to different schools, but one person wants to go off and go to Africa, and I can't remember exactly what Lady Bird wants to do, but it's something oddball there. Eventually she ends up going to school and university, and the movie ends on a perfect note, which I'll get to, and her other friend is going to a different school, and it's sort of that, you have this friend for a long time, and you're not always going to be together, but you'll always be like, I had the best times of my life with that friend. And the relationships, she's in love with this one guy, and he turns out to be gay, and it's just this honest relationship they have for a little bit there. They're outside the dance, they both wore stupid costumes, they don't fit in, they just mesh as friends. And their journey from, oh, we could date, or no, I'm not going to, sort of thing, to being friends at the end of the movie is very, very honest.
Yeah.
And I love this movie. It's delightful. I love this movie from beginning to end. It's just, all the characters, you get a really, the supporting cast in this film is incredibly phenomenal, who've all gone on to done other young adult films as well as Oscar-nominated projects. And just the tone of this movie, the gentleness it takes, the way she interacts with her father in this movie when she's working on college applications. That scene should be really, really boring, but she's sitting in a room trying to apply for college and loses her mind and has this honest conversation with her father. And then at the end, she realizes maybe she was overreacting and doing this and doing that. And they're just driving off, and she drives into, I think it's Cincinnati, but don't quote me on it. And she gives this only monologue of the movie. You know how I feel about monologues, but single monologue where she calls her mother after a big fight and this and that. And it's simple, it's effective, and it's a very honest movie, and I appreciate it.
With everything that you just said, I might actually have to check out Lady Bird at one point. Because I do like Greta Gerwig as a director based on what I've seen in Little Women, which...
Not much happens in this movie. This is a movie where it's all about characters, and the characters are incredibly well developed. Maybe one or two plot points happen, but it's just, I'm going to college, I'm dating this guy, here's my best friend. That's the whole movie. That's it.
It's interesting that you mainly talk about Lady Bird and her friend, because most people just talk about Lady Bird and her mother, which Jackie, played by Roseanne, it's great to see her in a movie that has that much potential in it. I do love the fact that she did get Oscar nominated for it, even though the movie didn't entice me all that much.
This movie
just
should have
because
won.
Of how...
Something. Anything. I don't know what. This is the same year as 3 Billboards, so I understand why Frances McDormand got the Best Actress. Best anything. Give it a nod of something, because this movie is definitely Oscar worthy, but it's not Oscar bait, and that's what I appreciate. It's a good movie without being like, look, we have all these performances, and it's overly dramatic, and we're the wife. Remember The Wife? It's really Oscar baity.
I didn't see it, so I can't really say for sure.
But yeah, I love Lady Bird from beginning to end. It's magical.
I'll take your word for it.
Yeah, I think
finally.
I think Marcus is borrowing my copy of it, so.
Nah, that's fine. Okay, so number 3 on this list is a very interesting choice given the subject matter, but in the vein of Boy in the World discovering how the world can be a much darker place than you would have expected, and that's something that you have to accept as you grow older and older. I think this was the coming-of-age movie that did that first, To Kill a Mockingbird.
Oh, yeah, that's a great pick. Oh my goodness, I almost put it on my list, but I put another classic on there, so continue.
But regardless, this has some of the best child acting that I have ever seen, and the fact that it's aged this well after decades upon decades really goes to say something.
58?
It might have been.
It was really old. It's old.
It was before having movies about civil rights became
Mm-hmm.
a mainstream thing. Because like around the time of Guess Who's Coming to Dinner and such, more movies like that were getting made around the same time, thanks to directors like Stanley Kramer, who did Guess Who and The Defiant Ones. He did a lot of Sidney Poitier stuff.
Sidney Poitier's excellent.
Oh, absolutely.
Such a good director.
I read the book in high school by choice. Like, I found it in the library, and I'm just like, you know what? I'm just going to go for it.
Oh, we had to read it.
Oh, you had to read it.
We had to read it, but we never watched the movie. I wish we had watched the movie, because the movie's great. The
you know
book
what?
is
I wish I had to read the book in school. Instead, I got something else, which
What book was it, out of curiosity?
I'm not sure if I'm allowed to say it specifically.
Well, just say what you think you can say.
Okay, look, it's the title of the book. Give me a break on this one.
Just bleep your words. Just don't say the word that's bad.
It's the book of...
Oh.
Yeah. And it's the nicer word for it, but I still have no idea what people think. So...
We did, John Steinbeck's The Pearl, To Kill a Mockingbird, a lot of Shakespeare, and, what's her name? Margaret Thatcher something. We did the Canadian author.
Yeah. Margaret Atwood.
Atwood. Whatever that book she wrote that everyone's read.
Handmaid's Tale?
No, we did the other one.
I don't know.
But Gregory Peck in this movie.
Fantastic.
Oh my goodness. I want that guy as a father. I like my dad, but this guy's cooler. And he's a better father, and like, I just want that guy as my father.
Absolutely. The best scenes are between Scout and Atticus. I love his mentality, the way he basically treats his kids like adults to the point where he literally doesn't care if they call him dad. They actually call him by his first name. That's the level of maturity that he trusts in them to understand how life just isn't fair sometimes.
No.
But the journey they go through where they observe their own father defending this innocent man in a trial, where he treats the adults like children and treats his own children like adults.
Yeah.
That was Doug Walker's way of describing Atticus Finch, because Atticus Finch is one of his favorite characters of all time. And watching his analysis really made me think about the movie a hell of a lot more, because Atticus goes through a lot of different circumstances himself. Namely, he didn't choose to defend this guy. Someone else appointed it for him. But he can at least accept that, and he can do exactly the job he was hired to do. Give this person a fair trial. If there is evidence that supports the theory that he's innocent, he is going to have to put that in front of everybody. And he has to remind them over and over and over again. And he still loses. But he doesn't give up. And Scout sees that through his actions and in his eyes, and learns from that. Learns not to take life for granted. Not to give up on doing things differently just because they didn't work the first time, or the second time, or the third.
And you think the town would learn a lesson, but they made Just Mercy to prove you wrong. Have you seen Just Mercy?
I have not.
Just Mercy takes place in the same town where they're trying to prove a man's innocent who's on death row. And they say, have you seen To Kill a Mockingbird? You can stand where Gregory Peck stood. But still they can't be nice to people. It's confusing.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's a coming of age for the father and the son in this film.
The daughter, yeah.
Yes.
Like, the son's in it, and the son's alright. In fact, the very awkward, disturbing ending where Atticus makes the suggestion that his own son might have actually killed someone, whether it was to defend his sister or not, on purpose, and to potentially treat him like any other person who has killed someone, potentially with malicious intent. And that just goes to show how he really does view things in a black and white fashion, which isn't always a good way of viewing the world, but you can at least understand why he feels that way. It's great to have a role model character and an audience character to really understand the messages throughout the film. With Atticus, he's the role model, and Scout is basically us as the observer. And that's just such a testament to not only Harper Hill for writing the book, but for whoever wrote the screenplay. Fantastic job.
Great stuff. I own it on Laserdisc.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
It's a thing I picked up. I'm going to go with another classic there. We're on the classic train right now. I love James Dean. Rebel Without a Cause. I'm a big fan of James Dean. I appreciate all his movies. East of Eden's very good. He did the other one.
Wait, isn't East of Eden the Anne Rice one, or is that a different...
No, he's in East of Eden. But my favorite one is Rebel Without a Cause. So I came into this movie. I watched this at a very young age. Because I loved Gilligan's Island growing up. I can't stand it anymore.
What?
In Gilligan's Island has the actor Jim Backus. And Jim Backus is not known for his dramatic roles. But he plays James Dean's father. And James Dean is a troubled young man. We get the iconic line, "You're tearing me apart," that the room used, and made it silly. But this movie, from beginning to end, is just a dark piece of growing up in this childhood. Visiting various places in Hollywood and this sort of corrupt city and this corrupt-minded kid, and it's fantastic. The outbreak he has. Have you seen this movie?
I have not seen Rebel Without a Cause, and not gonna lie, I didn't even realize that "You're Tearing Me Apart, Lisa" thing was ripped from that until seeing The Disaster Artist.
Yep,
and also seeing the resemblance between James Dean and James Franco.
Yeah, but James Dean is a much better actor.
Oh, without question.
But James Dean delivers this understated, but yet slightly over the top and dramatic when needs to be performance as this teen driving around in his cool car. I would love to have that car. I would drive that. If I was a teen. It's just this old Chevy, old Chevy pickup, and it's dope. I'm pretty sure it's pickup. I think I remember the right movie. And you have his girlfriend in there. I do believe it's Natalie Wood. I'm not sure, but don't quote me on that. I'm trying to remember who the girlfriend is.
That would sound about right.
Yeah, and just this... And it's really sort of the precursor to a lot of these early coming-up teen movies. It's the American Graffiti of driving your car around this boulevard and going through life getting mad at your father sort of deal. It's a lot of these precursor movies took a lot from this film. And this was, James Dean only did 3 films. And he's fantastic, and we absolutely remember him for doing these 3 films, but I think this is his finest.
There potentially might be a 4th film in
and
the
there's
future,
an 11th Marx Brothers film, I know.
Which, I remember when that whole, we're gonna CG James Dean into this movie out of respect for him. And
yeah, they're not doing that.
Okay,
I doubt that. No, I doubt that, because there's a Marx Brothers movie that was unfinished, and there's maybe 20 minutes of footage, but they found some more of it. But again, James Dean delivers this just trying to understand humanity, who he is, where he wants to be, does he want to go to college, university, who is he in love with, who does he hang out with? What are his influences? And it's the perfect coming-of-age movie because it resolves absolutely nothing. At the end of it, you're exactly where you started, but you respect the characters for it.
That's very similar to my number 2 choice, but I'm going to stick to my number 3 for now because the final 3 that I have on my list are actually in chronological order based on how much I enjoy watching them. My number 3 choice is one that I've covered in our Best Scripts episode.
Oh, which one's that?
Very good at describing how I felt about the movie, and chances are I still might not be, but The Breakfast Club is a coming-of-age story that I love so much to the point where I have definitely seen it at the Princess at least once.
We played it.
As far as I know.
Every summer, I think, is one of those things we play.
I saw it for its 35th anniversary last year, and I gotta tell you, the majority of it still holds up very nicely. It was, in my opinion, it's still John Hughes' best film as a director because he learned so much about what it means to have shot structure and proper editing. There's this one video essay from the channel Now You See It that covered a female editor who does not get enough credit for the amount of influence she had as a filmmaker. And John Hughes describes her as being the one that really taught him about filmmaking. Because before that, he only directed 16 Candles, and even though it does still have its funny moments, I can't really say the direction was that strong. If anything, it was pretty basic.
It's sort of a forgettable film, 16 Candles, but Breakfast Club I do remember, so I understand why you would hold it in high claim.
Namely the ensemble staging, because there are so many shots where you need multiple characters in the same frame in order to get a statement and then a reaction from multiple characters at the exact same time, which this really captures. It has a lot of close-ups back and forth whenever things get really tense, especially between such great performances. Love Molly Ringwald, love Anthony Michael Hall, Judd Nelson, Ali Sheedy, the very few times she really gets to stand out.
Despite Molly Ringwald hating working with...
yeah,
that's a thing.
You
can look that up. We don't need to discuss it.
Not gonna lie, it does piss me off that Molly Ringwald has all of a sudden jumped ship.
I mean, I think it was more 16 Candles, not Breakfast Club.
Well, Breakfast Club does have that shot where Judd Nelson does stare up her dress in that one desk, and not gonna lie...
But that's probably more staged than anything.
Yeah, exactly.
But 16 Candles is like, oh, okay, we're doing this.
Well, 16 Candles has certain moments.
Yeah, 16 Candles, I think, has aged about as well as Breakfast at Tiffany's.
I'm not getting into that. And also, Emilio Estevez is probably
great.
my favorite performance of his. A lot of people prefer him from The Mighty Ducks or Men at Work.
Oh, he's in The Mighty Ducks. I love The Mighty Ducks.
Yeah, he's the coach.
Cool. Yeah, I like that movie.
But I think I prefer him in this because he's the jock who, right from the beginning, has a heart.
Mm-hmm.
And the whole movie is him just basically reconciling and accepting the fact that even though he's always had a heart, he's still going to make mistakes. He's still got that potential to give in to peer pressure and his own status as a jock. And as many people have pointed out to death over, the main message of this movie is how you can have multiple social cliques, but you can still find a lot of common ground.
What is a social clique? You mean clique?
Same thing.
I want a social clique.
You say westerns as westerns. Keep talking, pal.
Yeah, but that's also a sandwich. Yours is like a movie that Adam Sandler did.
What?
I'm just being stupid.
I don't even get that.
Don't mind me. I love the character of the nerd.
Yeah,
What's that guy's...
Anthony Michael Hall.
His character and his arc is like, wow, I love that. He doesn't get attention from his dad. He's acting out. He's really smart, but he doesn't have to be. And everyone's like, you've got everything. Why are you doing this? And I'm like, that's a character we don't see a lot in coming-of-age movies. We see always, like, the stoner or, like, the person like that. Sort of, you know, or the jock or whatever, but we don't see that character often.
Yeah, it's great to see, like, dirty characters find some level of maturity, or mature characters find their level of stupidity and relaxation, namely how Anthony Michael Hall does kind of sort of have his stoner moments when they go to get his stash, or Judd Nelson and Emilio Estevez, again, coming with much more of a solid moral ground when it comes to their daily lives. And this movie captures that message so perfectly, right from the opening scene when they're comparing everyone's home life from their car. You have Molly Ringwald, who is so spoiled to the point where her dad basically negotiates everything for her, and she kind of likes to stand on her own. You are right about Anthony Michael Hall not being acknowledged by his own father. He only has his mother and little sister, who still give him a rough time either way. Which is weird, because the little sister probably isn't even all that smart to begin with. She just knows for a fact that her older brother is being bossed around, and it's just like, there's power. I'm going to take that power. It's a very, very... Well, I mean, little sisters do that to big brothers. I can safely say that.
Yeah, also I feel like Rocky ripped this off. I feel like they did that in Rocky IV. I feel like, you know, Breakfast Club.
Yeah, and the soundtrack. Great soundtrack.
Simple Minds.
That dancing sequence in the school, I can watch that forever. One of my favorite shots.
So parodied.
One of my favorite shots ever. And yes, it is so parodied. But the reason it is one of my favorite shots. That and yes. Rocky did definitely rip it
I feel like they did, because Rocky's like, yo, Adrian, I did it. And he, like, did both arms, but he never did a single arm until Breakfast Club.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Not to mention one of the best love-to-hate characters in Vice Principal Dick Vernon.
I love that guy. He's in Ferris Bueller. He's the same guy, right, in Ferris Bueller? Or is that a different guy?
No, that's a different guy.
Him.
He was the police captain in Die Hard that's just like, yeah, whatever.
Johnson & Johnson? No, I love Die Hard, you know how much.
Yeah, I know you do.
But yeah, they didn't name it the Brat Pack for nothing.
No, absolutely.
They made just as many movies as the Rat Pack. 4!
I thought the Brat Pack was like always evolving with every movie.
The Brat Pack evolved, but basically remained the same, but made 4 movies. The Rat Pack was basically the same, minus Peter Lawford.
Well,
but made
wasn't
4
the
movies.
Brat Pack kind of like 16 Candles, Pretty in Pink, Breakfast Club? That's when it like really hit its
Yeah.
peak. And then with St. Elmo's Fire, it just went.
It had a lot of the same people though. But like you could say with the Rat Pack, it was always Dean Martin, Sammy Davis Jr.
Yeah.
And then you had like Peter Lawford and Joey Bishop popping in and out. So you had that sort of thing.
You have Rat Pack, you have Brat Pack, you have Frat Pack.
What's the Frat Pack? Is that like Seth Rogen or something?
One would think, but I think Jack Black might be a part of that too. So I'm not entirely sure. Similar
that.
territory. There's a Splat Pack where there's Eli Roth and
Tarantino and
all
such?
of his other
Robert
dumb
Rodriguez?
buddies.
I'm down with the Splat Pack.
Lots of packs.
All right, so let me jump into what do I got next?
I don't know.
Let's jump into something similar, but in most recent times. I love this film. Good Boys. It's Jacob Tremblay and all the other kids that I can't remember, but Jacob Tremblay's in it. And it's these 3 kids trying to get their drone back. That's the movie. It's fun. It's inappropriate. They sell Pokemon cards to Stephen Merchant. Or instead he wants a blow-up doll. It's really, really funny. It's these 3 kids entering grade 6, and they gotta be all macho, and they're like, well, we're going to a new school. They all have different interests. One wants to be a performer, singer, and he's afraid to really express that passion because that's considered weird or not cool.
Yeah.
And Jacob Tremblay is afraid to kiss girls, and he doesn't know how to express it. And the other guy just wants to play Magic the Gathering. He just wants to be cool. And he wants to do his thing.
That's not cool.
And these 3 kids, I think it's pretty cool. I don't understand it, but I respect it because that takes a lot of skill to remember. I watch people live stream it. I still have no clue what's happening.
Yeah,
And they set off on a journey. The last couple weeks, they hang out really hardcore because they hang out every week. They ride their bikes down the street. They do their thing. And they're filming this drone because they're trying to get a peek at the neighborhood girls. And their drone crashes, and they have to basically get enough money or get another drone to replace it for his dad who's away for the day. And it takes place in this one day, and they go on this epic journey to find themselves. And they're crossing a highway and yelling and screaming, which is a highlight scene.
That part was one of the best.
And they get to the mall, and the other girls had bought all the drones, you know? It's got that absurdity, but it's also got that grounded in reality that you can't stay friends forever, despite that you want to be. And when we get to the end of the movie, the guy has his big show at the thing, and Jacob Tremblay is on his 4th girlfriend now after the big party, and the other guy is going to go play Magic the Gathering with his buddies. And they take the time to say, we're going to be friends, and then, hey, my parents have a really cool swing in their bedroom. It's really funny. I love this movie.
Clearly. Not gonna lie, the jokes themselves were kind of hit and miss for me. It's why I don't really hold Good Boys in that high of a regard. I do acknowledge that the performances are fairly good given what they're asked to do, because, let's face it, these kids could not have prepared for this in any way. I mean, Jacob Tremblay kind of sort of has done gross, inappropriate stuff, but in a much different context, so it makes sense why he's the main kid out of all these 3 or 4? It's 3, right?
There's 3 of them. Who's the mini Craig Robinson dude?
I have absolutely no idea, but yeah, that
I love that kid. He's funny.
It makes me wish Craig Robinson was his dad as opposed to
Will. It is?
Yeah, Lil Will.
I thought that was Craig Robinson's kid.
No.
I was like, this looks and feels like a mini Craig Robinson.
But I will say this, the whole message of how friends are kind of introduced through their parents as opposed to like naturally forming a bond with one another, and how you can actually spend too much time with certain friends, that is a really good and unique message, and it really goes to show that Seth Rogen produced comedies do have messages with a clear beginning, middle, and end arc. Yes, there is inappropriate content that can once in a while distract from that, but if there was nothing to distract by it, it would just be an after-school special. So
yeah, it reminds me of like an updated Adventures in Babysitting without a babysitter.
It does kind of have that quality to it.
Because they're running around, they're doing all this stuff, they're on this journey, they have to get back in time.
And I will admit, I prefer the sight gags as opposed to the actual constant cursing and puns that I found kind of lame here and there. Like, the highway run That was...
Best scene of the whole movie.
That was funny just because of how insanely over the top the three of them were.
Yeah.
I love the I'm going to die mentality that they had. That was just fantastic.
Fucking
that,
do it! Run across the fucking highway!
That and, there are two other ones. That and Jacob Tremblay in a paintball battle in this ungodly, creepy frat house.
Yeah, and they just... that was awesome. I love that scene.
It was, one of those previews that they put up at Landmark before the movie starts is just like, Jacob Tremblay was inspired by the Matrix gun battle in the lobby, and I'm just like, no kidding.
And they steal the drugs from there, and then the two
You made us bring drugs from a fucking playground? There are kids here! I do like that line. I like the broken arm thing because the screaming...
Oh my goodness, that's a funny scene.
The over-the-top screaming was timed so
We're
perfectly.
gonna have to put it back into place. What do you mean? We gotta do it right here, right now.
I'm fine. Your arm.
Let's watch a YouTube video.
Oh, hell no.
Oh, and then the mad respect they get at the end of the movie of all the shit they go through from the two high school girls who they stole the drugs from, and they had the drone, and they're trying to negotiate, and they're like, all right, kid. Just that little bit of respect at the end, and they're good.
Yeah.
They're good. I appreciate that.
Yeah, like the comedy itself didn't always work for me, but
It'll
I
work
will
for
say
me.
I will say this. The chemistry between the good boys was enough to say that I'm glad I saw it.
But I mean, this was like Seth Rogen, when I was going like mid-high school, when I was starting to watch these types of movies, Superbad came out. And then just everything he did has hit me ever since. You know, I appreciate his style of comedy.
Yeah.
And I like it very much. I love Superbad. I love This Is the End. Pineapple Express is delightful. Like any of these things, they're my thing.
Trust me, I know that you love This Is the End.
Oh,
but,
I do.
yeah, it really just goes to show how great Seth Rogen is as a storyteller when it comes out to balancing the smart and the stupidity in people. Because let's face it, everybody has like a good amount of stupidity and intelligence. It's just, it's what you use with both of them.
Yeah, I love this movie. Again, it's not for everyone, but I think it's perfect. And it really relates, not all the weird sex and drug stuff, but just the way me and my three friends came out of middle school, all having different interests. I was really interested in 80s rock. My other buddy was super interested in D&D, and my other buddy wanted to be a missionary. You know, like we had these three separate interests, but every once in a while we'd get together and still have the best time. And for me, it made me cry a bit because it really hit me there. Because I'm like, I get this. This is real.
Yeah, and I get
it's really extreme sometimes, but I get this.
Yeah, and I get it too, because most of my friends growing up were my neighbors, hence the whole like being drawn into that.
Same thing. We lived
and
on the same block.
And I was not really a sports person as I grew older. Like for a while, I was into it. Like we would always be playing hockey on the street or the circle, and it worked out very nicely. But over time, as I got more interested in stuff like this, there's obviously less time going towards that.
Yeah.
So.
And great movie. I think we have all solid picks on our list so far. Give me your number 2.
My number 2 is one of my all-time favorites.
I'm going to get my coffee while you do this.
I have covered this on my channel. I have covered this on 10 of my favorite movies because I wanted to do that as a tradition for a while, and then I just forgot about it after the first time. Like every 100 videos, I would do a top 10 favorite movies list. I haven't done that in a few years, but one of them for sure was Stand By Me. I absolutely love this movie.
Yes!
If you want to talk favorite child performances, these are mine. Will Wheaton, River Phoenix, Jerry O'Connell, Corey Feldman. Fantastic jobs all around. Rob Reiner really captured the chemistry that the four of them have. The chemistry that the four of them are trying to hold on to for as long as they can. Because the whole drifting apart, you don't actually see. Because what we do see is potentially the last time they were ever really together as a group. And I love especially how this search for a dead kid's body is basically a metaphor for the way all four of them are trying to basically overcome their fears of being rejected, not just by other kids their age, but older kids, their friends, their family, the entire community. River Phoenix especially as this kid who everyone thinks is a criminal because of basically the way his other family behaves towards society. And not gonna lie, he's given into peer pressure once or twice by stealing milk money. But in that great monologue of his where he says, I would like to go someplace where nobody knows me, where he talks about how he did feel guilty about it, how he knew for a fact stealing this milk money was not him, it was out of character, give it back. And then there's that whole suggestion about the teacher taking that money herself and putting it towards a dress. 50s mentality, what can I say?
Yeah, this is also a Stephen King book.
Yes.
And I think it's probably my third favorite Stephen King adaptation, and the three top favorites of Stephen King are Green Mile, Shawshank Redemption, and Stand By Me, and Running Man. Nothing horror.
Absolutely.
I love his drama. He's phenomenal at drama writing. I love Running Man. Do not get me wrong. I just think this is better than Running Man, for all you Running Man fanatics out there.
I can't imagine there being that many.
I think there are on the internet. I might have angered a few. But soundtrack. Oh my goodness, the soundtrack on this is one that I play when I'm writing, doing work. I want to put something relaxing on in the car. I love the soundtrack for this movie. I love the visuals. I love the performances. And there's nothing better than quoting, say, do you want to see a dead body?
Lollipop, lollipop, oh, lolly, 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 lollipop.
Hey, that was almost in tune. We should make an album. No, just kidding.
Why don't we do that for the outro? That would be great.
We just sing a song. We'll sing a song.
Absolutely, yeah.
Yeah, let's just say I'm down. I sing songs all the time because I don't give a shit, and y'all can tell me I suck at singing, but I enjoy singing because it makes me happy, and I'm not going to stop doing it because y'all don't like it. You can just mute me.
Yeah, great buddy movie. Love the interactions between Will Wheaton and River Phoenix, because Will Wheaton, not enough people give him credit.
Oh, he's great.
Really damn good in
He's
this.
wonderful in Star Trek: The Next
Love
Generation.
how he's the strong, silent type and kind of sort of the leader, just based on the fact that everyone loves hearing his stories. The lard-ass story, completely pointless. Well, no, not completely pointless, because it has that metaphor of fear of being rejected, and how lard-ass deals with his rejection by pointing out the rejection in others, whether or not they voluntarily decided to or not. On top of that, it's just hilarious. Hey, lard-ass, how was your trip?
So if you had to choose, because I was tempted to put Stand By Me on here, but I'm like, I like it, but I don't love it as much as my other picks. Goonies or Stand By Me?
Stand By Me.
Because I like the Goonies. I watched it. I just don't think it's as good as this one.
Well,
That's my thought.
Goonies was actually the first movie I saw once theaters reopened. I don't have to tell you that.
Oh, I know. I was there.
You were there.
I was there. I played that movie for you.
And not gonna lie, I enjoyed it, but there was so much more meat to the characters because there were only 4 to focus on. Because, like, with all the other kids, it was mainly one trait that defines them. With Corey Feldman, it was his ability to do other languages. With Ke Huy Quan, it was his Rube Goldberg devices that we did not get enough of. I can't believe I'm saying Ke Huy Quan was my favorite part of a movie because he annoys the living shit out of me in Temple of Doom. But
I love that kid. I love Temple of Doom. I don't care about Willie. I think it's creative and original, and it needed as a departure for the series. Temple of Doom is my favorite indie movie. But River Phoenix. I love River Phoenix because he got to play Indiana Jones in the opening of Last Crusade, which really is part of the highlight of that movie for me.
And was a better actor than Joaquin. That's just a fact.
Yeah, he gone too soon. Joaquin Phoenix is fantastic, but River Phoenix is... That family is just gifted. It's like the Baldwins. They're really good at what they do.
Not to mention... I can't believe I'm saying this, but Corey Feldman is kind of underrated in this character because out of all the other kids, he's the one who still gives in to the rejection and the fears.
Was he in Lost Boys?
Yes.
Okay, because we're playing that coming up.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it's coming soon. I've never seen it. I cannot wait to see it.
Especially during that junkyard sequence where he hears all this stuff about his father, stuff that is absolutely true, but he still is in complete denial because of all the glory that his father had of being a World War II veteran and storming the beaches in Normandy alongside Tom Hanks. But fuck all that shit. It's just, your dad held you by the ear and put it to a stove. He is a bad person. The fact that he still cannot let go of that fear, and the fact that he's the one person who grows up and does not really live the life that he wanted, because all the other kids had a life that was fulfilling. Jerry O'Connell grows up to be a family man, a family that hopefully respects him. We don't really see the family, but again, Jerry O'Connell, you get to see stand his own ground by actually tackling Corey Feldman and subjecting him to the same humiliation that Feldman had bestowed upon him. River Phoenix, even though his character, again, is someone who is gone too soon, grows up to be completely different from his family, different from the expectations that society set upon him, an intelligent lawyer. That was really something. And Will Wheaton grows up into Richard Dreyfuss, a very talented Stephen King.
That's not a bad way to grow up.
A writer who thankfully, in the last scene, remembers not to follow in the exact same footsteps as his parents, who were completely oblivious unless they were John Cusack, who is also really good as the big brother. One of the best big brothers you could have on the big screen. And also Kiefer Sutherland, again, as a great love-to-hate character as the leader of the gang.
Speaking of shoving your ears onto the stoves, let's talk shoving a head into a deep fryer. My number 2 pick, Sleepaway Camp. It's a coming-of-age movie. This is my favorite of the horror, of the campiness. I love it. There's a disc missing from this. I think it's in my drive with it. So Sleepaway Camp follows Angela. You can come back in, Tyler. It's okay.
No, I
guess it's just me. Sleepaway Camp is a coming of age for a young woman as she goes through basically the first time. What?
No, keep going. Keep going.
As she goes through the first time going out socializing, as she's shy and awkward, her first romance, her first love, and her first murder. And it has some of the best, I think, silent character work you'll ever see in any horror movie. It isn't cheesy, yes, I will give it 100%. There's a lot of cheese in this movie at the end of the day. But at the beginning and the way we see this, she's this silent character, doesn't want to talk to anyone, just doing exactly what she wants to do. In the rec hall, everyone's like, man, I bet I could date her or take her out, I bet she's a good time. Even the cook's a creep. But he gets his head shoved in a giant pot and deep fried to death because he's cutting potatoes and tries to corner her for ice cream. This is a horror movie, and I think, don't watch the sequels. Please don't. But this movie has some of the best kills I've ever seen. Have you ever seen a curling iron go up a woman's you-know-what and burn her to death? That's a death you get in this movie. Stabbing someone in the shower and cutting their spine open so they can bleed. Putting bees on someone's head and locking them in a bathroom stall. Oh my goodness, it's great. And then you get that twist ending, which if you haven't seen it, I won't spoil it for you.
Oh sure, that you won't spoil.
I won't spoil the twist ending. Have you not? Do you know the twist ending?
Of course I know the twist ending. You know what? I'm never going to get her face out of my head.
But it depends if you've seen the rated or unrated version. The unrated version has a little more graphic content for that ending. But just the character of...
What, it shows it?
100%.
Oh.
100%. I love this movie. I love Sleepaway Camp from beginning to end. It's a wonderful, wonderful film. I cannot get enough of it. It's basically this young woman coming out of her shell. And the murder is great. The death is great. All the side characters, I love the side characters. They are characters you love to hate. There's Judy. She's like, why does she get to sit with the boys and we have to play volleyball? I'm thinking, you're complaining about playing volleyball. I love it. I love it. There's transitioning shots of like making Freddy Krueger, Friday the 13th mask to like dripping blood on like the art thing after a kill. It's creative. The way it does its cinematography, it paints this camp as this like empty place to open it up, but with just the noise of kids, which everyone says that's a flaw of the film, but I think that's genius. It's showing you foreshadowing with this wonderful cinematography. It does this low budget, unique take on this. And we just slowly limit the girls, We see this scumbag who's running the camp. We see the way his relationship with everyone slowly crumbles before he's brutally murdered by an arrow through the throat. It's fantastic. It's low-budget horror at its best. Weird Al did a song, Nature Trail to Hell in 3D, after all, for his Weird Al in 3D album. And it's phenomenal. The way it uses the cameras and the characters, stereotypes and cheesy they may be, it's effective, simple, and has a perfect runtime at 140 minutes, showing the coming of age of Angela. You don't want something
40
to be...
minutes?
Well, it's an hour and 40 minutes, whatever you want to call it.
You said 140 minutes.
That's what well, whatever. That
140 minutes is 2 hours
no,
and 20
that would
minutes.
be great. But it's very well paced, very well made. It's the perfect example of indie horror in the 80s. It's better than Friday the 13th. It's better than Nightmare on Elm Street. People are gonna kill. It's coming to the comments. They're like, Friday the 13th is a boring piece of shit. Nightmare on Elm Street is creative, but I think this one really captures low budget horror and takes it to the next level in a coming of age story.
I have absolutely nothing to respond to any of this shit with. So.
Angela. Do you want to sing the Happy Camper song with me?
No.
I'm a happy camper.
No.
I love the fours and...
No.
Love this movie.
We're not singing that at the end of this video.
We're singing Lollipop, right?
Please.
Is that what we're doing?
Please.
Anyway, what's your number one?
Well, you already know what it is.
But
But
I
they
have
don't
to
know.
act
But they don't
surprised,
know.
okay?
Okay, relax. This is... You have no idea what it's like.
I'm a blast to hang out with.
Yes, you are. My favorite coming-of-age movie of all time was something I saw back in 2015, I believe, when it came out to America and Canada.
Mm-hmm.
It was a Studio Ghibli movie that was allegedly going to be its last, which it's not.
Was not. Should have been.
Yeah, you know what? I do agree that it
Go
should
out
have
with
been.
a bang. And
Absolutely, because...
Breaking Bad it.
Because I've always been a bigger fan of the smaller scale Studio Ghibli stories because there's a little bit more of an emphasis on character development, and it takes very mundane scenery but makes it absolutely look huge in scope. And Hiromasa Yonbayashi absolutely did that with When Marnie Was There. It's one of those movies that I've talked about over and over on this channel, along with Mary Poppins Returns, Hateful Eight, and A Quiet Place. But you know what? Those are some of my favorite movies, and...
This is what we're going to do. One day, I'm going to watch When Marnie Was Here, and you can watch Lady Bird, and we'll review each other's movies for us. Because we both love these movies to death, and we won't shut up about them.
That sounds absolutely great.
I got to see this movie. I love the poster. I love the art style. Like, it looks beautiful. I like a good Ghibli movie when I get around to it. It looks incredible.
And we talked about it in the poster, how it details a lot of the themes and visual symbolism without really giving it away at that many plot details. And I love how it's a great example of the way two kids can overcome grief by talking to each other. Not necessarily looking to adults for moral guidance and support, even though they do on the rare occasion. But it's mainly about how a friendship can be a way to resolve conflict within one's lives. I loved the voiceover performances between Haley Steinfeld as Anna, this girl who has a lot of hidden pain in regards to her family lineage. She goes to visit her adoptive aunt and uncle, played by John C. Reilly and Grey Delisle Griffin, who are also really good, even though they're just nice, polite Studio Ghibli side characters and not much else.
John C. Reilly?
Yeah.
Okay, sure. I think of him as, look, I'm in a Will Ferrell movie.
No,
or I'm the goofy guy on Kong Skull Island. Don't
Well-
mess with those guys.
Well, here's the thing. His wife, Grey Delisle Griffin, is Azula from Avatar.
Oh.
And she
Okay.
plays this sweetheart of a middle-aged woman where it's just like, I would not have guessed that was Azula or Vicky from Fairly Odd Parents or anything like that. Because she's always the bratty kid in every Nickelodeon show, and she's fantastic at it.
Excellent.
But it's just such a change of pace just to see a side actor doing something different. And also you have Kiernan Shipka from The Chilling Adventures of Sabrina as Marnie, who is absolutely fantastic. I love how low-key, subtle, and mysterious she is. That stupid Sabrina the Teenage Witch Netflix show.
I only watched like a couple episodes back in the day. I have no clue what The Chilling Adventures of Sabrina was until you said Sabrina the Teenage Witch with the talking cat thing.
It's a horror version of Riverdale, except much more easier to... It's a hell of a lot easier. It's easier to watch.
I bet she's watched the other show. I don't like Riverdale. It's not a thing I like. I'm glad for those who like it. I don't like Degrassi. It's okay. But it's good to see her in a different role because we got to see actors in a different light and things we don't appreciate.
Absolutely. Haley Steinfeld in particular, great voiceover performance. I know I said Age of 17 was one of my favorites at first, and it still is, but this might even be better. I know the animation speaks a lot more in regards to the facial expressions, the body language that the character is portraying, But her voiceover work just complements it the same way Glenn Close's performance complements the visuals in Tarzan. It's a very low-key performance, but she adds a lot to it. And you also have side actors who, once in a while, don't really have a ton to do, like Ellen Burstyn, Kathy Bates, or Gina Davis. But
Kathy Bates is phenomenal in anything. She destroys every role she's in.
It's a 5-minute look, I'm here, bye type of performance, but it's fine. And Gina Davis as Haley Steinfeld's adoptive mother, only in it for 2 scenes, but she adds a lot of emotion to it that actually made me tear up every now and then.
Good.
Love the animation in this movie because it has a lot of subtle color symbolism, namely how blue and purple represent grief and desire, because blue surrounds the entire scenery of this movie and a lot of the clothing designs that Anna in particular wears throughout the entire film. One of my favorite shots is her wearing bright blue pajamas and a blue housecoat. She's looking out the window, looking at Marnie's house, but it's raining so she can't get there. And there's this window reflection showing her grief. The fact that she feels completely alone and that she has nobody else to talk to. Or this one shot where she sees Marnie's house for the very first time. She's standing in this marsh, and the camera just pans up as she is looking at her house in complete awe. There's wind blowing, birds are flying. It has all that nature porn that you would expect from a Studio Ghibli movie.
Nature porn. You heard it here, folks.
What? Studio Ghibli, Hayao Miyazaki, you know it's all going to be.
I'm trying to be funny, okay?
I know.
You know they're like...
I'm trying to make as many points as I possibly can, but...
dubbed or subbed? How do I watch this?
I've never actually seen it subbed, so I can't really
I always do subbed, I never do dubbed.
But
I've watched Howl's subbed, I've never seen the dubbed.
Wait, you've never seen the dubbed version of Howl's?
No, I've watched the subbed.
Really?
My wife and I love anime. We've never watched dubbed.
Really? With Billy Crystal, Christian Bale, Lauren Bacall...
I've seen maybe 2 minutes of it when I was testing it for the cinema, but I always do subbed because I like to watch in the original version. I don't mind subtitles.
The dubbed of Howl's is good, and since I've only seen the dub of Marnie and love it that much, I think that should pretty much answer it for me.
Alright, there you go.
But yeah, Blue, being an example of sadness and grief, surrounds characters everywhere. Blue oceans, blue skies, blue clothing, even blue eyes, which Anna and Marnie both have, and it's a subtle clue of the grief that they're both sharing. With Anna, it's much more specific. There are people in her life that she never knew before, and with Marnie, it's people that she doesn't really get to know at all because they're too busy traveling, and she's stuck with these servants who don't treat her well because they're sick of being saddled with babysitting this rich kid. Because Marnie is one of the wealthier members of this society. But I could go on and on forever, but it's a great example of how friendship comes in many different shapes and forms. It is a great example of how to tell a story so subtly through color symbolism. This was one of the few times, this was probably the first movie where I realized that was a major key feature. Love the performances, it can be a little melodramatic sometimes. The side characters don't get a ton to do in terms of meat or depth, but love the cinematography, love the performances. I just fucking love this movie so much that my thoughts and feelings are as scatterbrained as the others on this list. But you know what?
We've talked about this a few times. I should just watch it.
Yeah, you really should.
I've never seen it, so I think your thoughts summarize that pretty good.
I don't know how detailed or in-depth they are, but
that's pretty solid. My number one, can you guess what my number one is? Just give me a wild guess here. It's by my favorite director ever, and it's not Robert Rodriguez. Taika Waititi! Hunt for the Wilder People. What? You don't like this one?
No, I thought you were going to say Jojo Rabbit.
No, I love Jojo Rabbit, and I love Eagle vs. Shark, but it's Hunt for the Wilder People for me.
Right on.
So Hunt for the Wilder People is a foster kid jumping around from house to house. You'll know this kid from Deadpool 2 as the kid who has the superpowers. I don't actually know his name, but he's very talented, and I hope to see more of his work in the future. And he finally finds a home with the guy from Jurassic Park,
Sam Neill.
Sam Neill from Jurassic Park.
Now I can actually remember.
And his mother. And we get these, and this movie is quirky, it's hilarious, it's funny, it's oddball. They break out a tiny keyboard, happy, happy, happy birthday, and they're singing this ridiculous song, and the mother passes away after we see a brief stint of his life with this family. So he, at being this runaway, rebellious kid, I didn't choose the thug life chose me, wearing fancy designer shoes, runs into the wilderness in the middle of nowhere. And all that's left is this adoptive father that he has that he's never really connected with, who has to go and get this kid who literally will run around in the wilderness and probably die. And when he does find him, he breaks his leg. So guess what? They're stuck in the forest for a very long time. And this creates bonding situations. They start to relate. There's this distant connection between the father who's very old-fashioned and the kid who's up-to-date and can't charge his iPod and do these sort of scenarios. And they're walking around the woods. He's teaching him how to hunt for food. He's teaching him how to be cool, you know. And it's hilarious. First of all, it's really, really funny. It has no right to be funny. It deals with, there is a subsection of this movie that is hilarious. We should not be laughing at about molesting children.
Yeah,
but this is a joke. It's a misunderstanding joke. And this is what Taika Waititi does very well. Everything is a misunderstanding. We're not directly making fun of it. We're misunderstanding it. And the hunters will be like, well, what's going on? And he's like, well, you know, we're doing this. And he's got this fun accent. And he's like, you did that? And it's all simply a misunderstanding. Because the Child Protective Services will get you. And they will quote Terminator at you. I'm like the Terminator. I will come at you. I'd be like, well, I'm like Terminator 2, where Linda Hamilton is this. Well, I'm Terminator 3. You know, and it's, why would you have that conversation? I don't know, but give me more of it. And this woman trying to find this child is yelling, no child left behind, driving in a fucking tank to save this kid. It's incredible. I love this. She's in Thor Ragnarok. She's amazing.
In the few seconds that she's in.
She's incredible. I'm like, I know you. You drove in it. And it's this bond that they build with this emotional storytelling while cracking these irreverent jokes and jumping back and forth with pitch-perfect pacing, beautiful cinematography, wonderful locations, and just this ridiculous kid who's incredibly quotable. And we end up at the end where the kid comes back and he really wants to be with this man who he spent all this time with because this is his father. It doesn't matter if he's adopted. And they do this simple storytelling device. They have a conversation. They sit down. How are you? Oh, I'm good. Did I let you take your stuff? Just my toothbrush. And we end the movie. It's beautiful. It's wonderful. This kid finally finds a home, and I cannot tell you how much I love this movie.
And you really stole the thunder on that one. I was gonna do the fucking No Child Left Behind thing because that's the only thing I remember her doing. Like, I don't remember her finding all that funny the first time, and then I just kept thinking about it, and it just got funnier. And that's the great thing about Taika Waititi. His humor, even if it doesn't hit you the first time, it stays with you, it lingers, and it lets you think about it more and more, so that you don't have to see it a second time to find it even funnier, even though I do recommend that you see it more than once, because Hunt for the Wilder People was how I discovered Taika Waititi as a filmmaker. I had heard about him when he was announced as Thor Ragnarok, and I'm just like, wait, who the fuck is he? So my bosses had seen Hunt for Wilder People, they recommended it to me, and I'm very glad that they did, because from the first 10 minutes, I was laughing my ass off, especially the way they find a way to make it killing a pig seem funny with the slasher close-ups of the knife. And seeing Russell's terrified face, along with his adoptive mother with blood on her face, is just like, hey, can you help me out with this? And it's just like, holy shit, lady. No wonder Sam Neill finds you that attractive, even though he really doesn't talk to her all that much throughout the movie either, except for when she's dead and he's crying. So you can tell that he obviously had a great deal. And my other favorite scene is where Waititi is the preacher at her funeral.
Yes.
And he is trying so hard to get his point across. But when Russell says something that's not what he's trying to teach, but is actually a lot smarter and more insightful, he jealously just goes, "What? No, that's not." Look, the point is, ladies and gentlemen, and I'm just like, dude, you are a crooked preacher in a completely different way, but in a way that I would much rather see more often.
But oh my, I forgot about that scene. Thank you for reminding me. It's almost as good as the Pink Panther Dreyfus saying that Clouseau is dead scene when he's twitching his eye and losing his mind. It's awesome.
I didn't even think of that, but
yeah, I love that scene. Oh my goodness, I love Taika Waititi. This is his finest work. This is probably the best coming of age movie I've ever seen. I watched this on a whim on Netflix because this movie came out 2013, I think, something like that.
Actually, I think it came out 14 or 15. Maybe.
Either way, I watched it about a year after it came out, and I'm just like, what's this weird pig movie with the guy from Jurassic Park? And I was like, I love this movie.
You know what? This actually isn't my introduction to Waititi. What We Do in the Shadows was my introduction, and it was good. I didn't laugh that hard at it. I just thought it was a neat concept, except for that board members meeting of roommates where it's just like, you haven't washed the dishes in 5 years. Not to mention, you got blood all over my sofa. What, the red one? Then it's red now.
I watched Hunt for the Wilder People, then What We Do in the Shadows, then I hunted down Eagle vs. Shark, then Boy, and then when Jojo Rabbit came out, I was like, give me more.
You know what? Back in February, before all this shit happened, I had the opportunity to either watch The Master or Boy at the Tiff Bell Lightbox.
Watch Boy.
Okay, good.
It's amazing.
I'll take your word for it.
The Master's alright. I like it to a certain extent.
I didn't know it was about repressed love going into it.
It's really good. I just like Taika Waititi more.
Yeah, absolutely.
And that's a very good coming of age film. But for my list, Hunt for the Wilder People. Is there any honorable mentions that you just thought of or something that didn't make your list? For me, I wanted to put To Kill a Mockingbird on here. 8th Grade was one I thought could have made my list. The Graduate was definitely up there. And my last honorable mention would be American Graffiti.
See, I thought of putting some Disney coming of age ones up there, like Bambi or Tarzan, because they take a little bit of a different approach. They don't take the exact same one. Because Bambi is a little bit more of a slice of life thing that is more about atmosphere and character as opposed to story, and that's what makes it stand up to those who have seen it, because it's one of those classics that nobody watches or even thinks of anymore. And with Tarzan, it had that... it did have that Lion King approach where it jumps forward through time to let you soak in how people view this one kid
that's a definitely
compared to
coming of
everybody
age.
else. Yeah, and
I mean, every Disney movie is coming of age because every Disney princess is 14.
Yeah, that's true.
So, Lion King would have been a good pick, though.
Yeah, Lion King would have... Yeah, Lion King is, the Disney coming-of-age one that people think about, but the way they kind of botch up the message of accepting the past, it kind of gets on me. And if everything else about it wasn't as good, then it probably wouldn't be that good of a movie. But the voice acting, the comedy, the music, the animation, that stuff's all great, so it still holds up, even though the message is kind of fucked over with, especially towards the end. But it's... Yeah, I don't know. I almost put Lady and the Tramp just because there's a bit of a coming-of-age thing where she starts off having sibling rivalry, but then cares a great deal about her owner's one child to the point where she has to protect it at all costs. And then she finds that there's more to life than just her home when she falls in love with the Tramp, and the Tramp decides that, you know what, settling down has its perks over just wandering around, possibly being in danger, even though the danger was part of the thrill of his lifestyle.
Y'all get that free spaghetti.
I love that song. That is easily the best scene in
That's
the entire
most iconic.
movie.
That's why I joke about it.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's the most iconic scene from the movie.
Yeah, but it's iconic for a reason. And plus, the songs are all really good. The Siamese cat shit, I hated those two fuckers before I found out what it actually stood for, so it really didn't.
It was the 1950s. We can't
deal with it, people. Deal with it.
We can respect the movie for what it is and not
Absolutely.
just They're animated cats, okay?
Exactly.
Animated cats, I'm not crazy mad at it.
Yeah, if it was people like the Peter Pan natives, then
Yeah.
that's a different story.
But then y'all just learn from that for the future. But anyway,
Yeah.
great honorable mentions there. And then my last honorable mention, I was thinking the Muppet movie, but you know. It was just me. It's all the Muppets learning to grow and...
Okay.
and Gonzo's early years, plumbing business.
Anyways, folks, thank you for tuning in to the Josh and Tyler
The
show.
Josh and Tyler show. That's us. I'm Josh. He's Tyler. I'm Tyler. He's Josh. Anyway, I don't know. That just sounded cool when I said it. Yeah, thanks for joining us. We will be back.
Yes, we will.
When we're back, check out Tyler Wolf on YouTube. That's 2 F's for fucking fantastic. That sounds cool.
Aww.
Exactly. But yeah, we all have our favorite coming of age. What's yours? Leave your comment in there. Maybe you don't like Sleepaway Camp. Let me know. I will argue with you.
Yeah. Anyways.
Take her easy. We'll see. I don't, things, words. I'm gonna cut this.
Lollipop, lollipop.
Lollipop.